to have mental illness. And I was like, wow, that's a good one. And again, this stems from misunderstanding of the concepts. I'm a big stickler, like you said, operational definitions. I want to be super clear about what I'm teaching. I'm not teaching la, 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 la. I'm teaching you how to be emotionally self-aware. Would you agree that it matters to be clear about what you're feeling?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. So when you're clear about how you're feeling, and if that feeling is disrupting you from being a good student or being a good partner or being a good manager leader, do you think that you should use techniques to help you figure out how to manage it?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. That's what we teach. It's really clear. When you have conceptual clarity, I think there's less confusion. What happens is that people, it's gotten politicized, it's confusing around going back to what we spoke about earlier, that this is obsessive checking in, this is prying into kids' personal lives. Here's the deal. A kid comes to school with feelings. We all have feelings from the moment we wake up in the morning to the time we go to bed at night, even when we sleep. Have you ever been irritable in the morning?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And have you ever noticed that we call it incidental leakage? It's not a great term. But like you're irritable, you really haven't processed it, and you get maybe to the studio here, and then maybe people are trying to interact with you, and you're not like the best version of you.
Definitely.
Yeah. That's what happens. And so that happens to a kid who's gotten bullied on the bus or had a fight at home. And you want that kid, like every parent does, I want my kid to be a good learner, have good friends, etc. All right. So now I'm teaching you a process, Andrew, that before you walk into the studio, I want you to take 30 seconds, maybe 20 if you get good at it, to just check in. Take a breath. How are you feeling? Gosh, I'm pissed off at that phone call I had, or I'm annoyed at this. Okay. How do you want to be seen and talked about and experienced in that studio today? Oh, wow. It's a whole, do you see how even saying that, it makes you stand still and reflect? Well, I'm going to be this cool dude who's, compassionate and creative. Okay. Well, what do you need to get there? And then you walk in, and all of a sudden you have attributed the emotion to its actual cause, which is that stupid phone call, whatever happened, and you're no longer going to displace that or project it or take it out on somebody else. Do you think that would be a useful process for kids, couples, leaders to use?
Definitely.
How long did it take?
Seconds.
There you go. This is not obsession with feeling. This is not, this is at opportune moments. When I come home from work, I work long hours and I'm tired and I'm irritable a lot of the time. I just am. I got to switch my mindset to be the best version of myself as a husband. So that's what we're trying to help people do. And I don't want people to be confused by that. I want people to be I want real clarity. It's articulating what your experience is, recognizing that it may be helpful. If it's helpful, you got nothing to do. Congratulations. If it's not going to be helpful, you need to think about those strategies. Is it labeling it? Maybe. Is it taking the breath? Maybe. There have been times I've taken 15 deep breaths and I'm still irritable. I need a new strategy. I need to call a good friend and just say, hey, Doug, can you I'm really struggling with this right now. You got some thoughts? Not a problem. Getting social support is not weak. It's smart. Maybe I need to take another walk around the block to just decompress. Maybe I got a really shitty night's sleep and I just need to recognize that I'm never going to be the best version of myself, no matter how hard I try, because I haven't replenished, the resources of my brain to be the best version of myself.
It's an unfortunate reality, but tap water often contains contaminants that negatively impact our health. In fact, a 2020 study by the Environmental Working Group estimated that more than 200 million Americans are exposed to PFAS chemicals, also known as forever chemicals, through drinking of tap water. These forever chemicals are linked to serious health issues, such as hormone disruption, gut microbiome disruption, fertility issues, and many other health problems. The Environmental Working Group has also shown that over 122 million Americans drink tap water with high levels of chemicals known to cause cancer. It's for all these reasons that I'm thrilled to have Rora as a sponsor of this podcast. I've been using the Rora countertop system for almost a year now. Rora's filtration technology removes harmful substances, including endocrine disruptors and disinfection byproducts, while preserving beneficial minerals like magnesium and calcium. It requires no installation or plumbing. It's built from medical-grade stainless steel, and its sleek design fits beautifully on your countertop. In fact, I consider it a welcome addition to my kitchen. It looks great, and the water is delicious. If you'd like to try Rora, you can go to rora.com/Huberman and get an exclusive discount. Again, that's Rora, RORA.com/Huberman.
I love it. And I've two reflections I'd love your reflections on. The first one is positive states and emotions that are also dangerous. When people are feeling over-affiliative, over-comfortable, they sometimes say things that get them into real trouble. They either disclose things or they make jokes that later they pay the price for. This is, I think, maybe not as common as anger and sadness and anxiety, but given that some very prominent, very, very smart people I've seen completely destroy their careers by, it used to be called tweeting. You go, well, this is crazy. This person, actually a chair of psychiatry, I'm not going to beat around the bush here, was fired for saying something that was totally, it was actually inappropriate and lame and stupid. And you just go, but this person is clearly intelligent. They're the chair of a Ivy League school in psychiatry. And you say, well, what happened? And what was interesting to me were the tweets leading up to it. You could say he was showing his true self, but there was this sort of like ease and comfort around joking. And there's certain jokes you just don't make. And so I think what you're describing is equally important for not overstepping, not, hurting oneself or other people.
Activation is activation. So your heart rate and your, different chemicals get released when you're super excited and when you're anxious. Activation might be the same. The psychology of it is different, right? One is like anticipation of like positive things. One is anticipation of, the negative things. And of course, emotions drive our thinking, our decision-making, everything. So, how many of us have made a mistake when we were too excited when we were young? We won't go into those stories now. Excitement without regulation is not helpful. It's funny because you tell that, and going back to the school situation, and that's a big problem with a lot of teachers. They're like, the kid is so excited, they're just going to see grandma after school, and they can't stop talking about it all day long, and it's driving me crazy. So positive emotions can be a pain in the butt too. But they're afraid that they don't want to squelch the kid's excitement. And I say, well, let's talk about it. What do you think? I mean, this is like the easiest solution I came up with on the spot. I said, what's the challenge? He can't stop talking about going to see his grandmother. I said, well, he must love his grandmother. That's a great thing. Have you given him an opportunity to stand up in the front of the class to just tell everybody how excited he is and just let it get it out? What do you mean? You want me to give him the throne? I said, yeah, I want you to try this out. I want you to let him, when he's like, blah, 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 he can't stop talking about it. I want you to say, Johnny, I'm going to give you a minute to get up and tell everybody how excited you are, but then we're going to go back to math. We're going to go back to science. And let me know how that works. And of course, 2 weeks later, I go back and visit. She's like, you're a magician. I'm like, I'm not a magician. He just needed an outlet for his emotions. Give the kid the 1 minute to just tell everybody how excited he is, but also let him know that the expectations that I have for you are not changing. Just because you're excited about going to see grandma doesn't mean you have to focus. That's the magic of the work.
Be a channel, not a dam.
There you go.
I didn't make that up. I learned that when I was a camp counselor in Yosemite. You get a kid that, back then we didn't have concepts of ADHD.
Yeah.
You got a kid that back then you would just be like, oh, this kid he's out of control. He wasn't harming him. He was just like would not settle down. You can't just say, hey, sit down. Or, that kid would always be getting in trouble, get sent home. So you give them an opportunity to do something, but then you have to let them settle down. Likewise for the kid that was more creative and less physical. If your entire bunk was a bunch of kids who were super physical, that always would happen. But then you find out this kid was had something of value to share with the other kids, and then it would establish his place in this group. There's a very weird thing happening lately online, which is this obsession with the 90s. I grew up in the 90s, so teen in the 90s.
Whitney Houston.
And there's an example that I saw recently that I think is really relevant to what you're describing. It was a picture of a classroom sitting around listening to a radio. I remember doing this. It was an actual picture, and it said, when the Challenger space shuttle blew up, we all listened to it with our teachers because we were listening to that space shuttle launch. And then afterwards, we went back to our lesson plan. We didn't process it for weeks and weeks. And someone said, gosh, I miss the 90s. Now, at my school is a little bit different. I actually remember the teacher going around the room the next day and asking people if they had anything they wanted to share. And people would share their thoughts. And then like one kid said, like, I heard they found a foot, you know, and then she was like, okay, Garrett, you know, like settle down. You know, like some kids were being a bit morbid and stuff. Maybe she shouldn't have done that. I don't know. But there was an opportunity. But I think that was the last it was ever discussed. And we witnessed with our ears, it's not the same as seeing it, but we witnessed with our ears a bunch of people blowing up. And it was true. It was like, okay, this happened. This is tragic. We're going to talk about it for a bit, and then we're not going to talk about it anymore. I'd love your thoughts on the picture I just laid out. What happened, what's happening now, this kind of emphasis on let's get back to when things were not as coddled. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
You know, we were talking about this a little while ago. The world that kids are growing up in now is different. It is a different world. I was not thinking about climate change when I was a kid. I really didn't worry about who is president or not president and whatever's going on politically. I wasn't thinking about, you know, wars as much as people are thinking about right now. I wasn't thinking about artificial intelligence and technology is going to take over my career. So there are real concerns that high school kids tell me they're feeling, and it's really causing them a lot of stress. We haven't created solutions. We're not teaching them how to manage it. We're going to have to learn how to manage it in this world we're living in. So I do think, you know, the challenge is there. I just want to say one thing that's related, which is this artificial intelligence piece that is obviously prominent right now in society, which people are freaked out about for some reasons and thrilled about for other reasons. The thing that I'm most concerned about is that about 20% of adolescents now report using technology, AI, as a therapist, you know, as a companion. Now, do I think you can get advice from AI about like stress? Definitely. Do I think it's going to help? A little bit. Do I want people to be in relationship with a chatbot? Absolutely not. And here's the deal. When I was a kid who was being bullied and like spit on the bus and my head being banged in the windows, and I came off the bus, what I needed was a human being to say, I love you. A human being to grab my hand. A human being to say, we're going to get through this together. There's no way the technology can replace that. And I would argue that this obsession with technology to solve our emotional problems is a symptom of the thing we started talking about from the beginning, which is this fear of intimacy, this fear of connection, this fear of being present with people's emotions. It's so scary for parents to be with their kids' emotions. I never learned how to deal with my anxiety. I can't deal with my kids' anxiety. I'd rather not know that they're feeling anxious. And then I said, do you want your kid married to a chatbot? And so the real issue, in my humble opinion, is that we are cultivating more and more disconnection. And I think about this, you know, developmentally. And I don't think, you know, in general, you know, I was stressed out as a kid, and I was at the age where video games were becoming popular, and I got that first little football game. I could spend 10 hours a day on that. That was my way of not being in the real world, of not dealing with my challenges, of my parents not connecting with me. Then I got a Walkman, and then the internet came, and then I got email, and then I got social media, and now it's AI. This is just an endless trajectory of outside influences that are pulling us away from being in relationship. And I think I wouldn't say this, I wouldn't say this publicly, this is a podcast, is that I never thought evolution could move so quickly.